So Lara is one of our other special kairangahau Māori in the spaces of planning and resource management. So she's one of our champions that spent time in local government and Crown Research Institutes, and now has started her own organisation, and so she's sharing today about Māori resilience in the resource management system. So I hand over to you, Lara, to introduce yourself. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Aroha mai, I'm so sorry that I'm online and not there in person. I really tried, but yeah, it was just too difficult from where I stay in Muriwai on the west coast of Auckland. In these challenging conditions, but yeah, nice to still join you. And I'll get into it because I know, yeah, lunch will be ready soon. I just added these slides in because when I was listening to Tawhiti beautiful kōrero earlier, and he was talking about whakapapa and the mātauranga and how we, you know, he went back to Taiwan, which often people, yeah, don't go all the way back, and then reminded me of something Mum said about how so my mum's in the photo to the top right next to my dad in that nice shiny leather jacket, and yeah, she said something about how everyone's always thought our family looked very Asian, and that she thinks it's that link back. So yeah, that just reminded me, and then I thought, oh, I'll put some photos in of my whānau, because yeah, my nan, who's in the middle, and my great nanny there as well, Tūmiki Wirata Mahinui. Yeah, that's us. And and also, I need to move myself. Sorry, I'm not very good with technology. Yeah, there's our marae there, o haki marae. So my whakapapa is to Te Aroa and Tūwharetoa and Kahanunu, and down to Ngāi Tahu ki Murihiku as well. And so it was interesting as well, John, that you're talking about pumice, and I ran outside and I grabbed my huge bit of pumice that I collected the other day out of the river just there. Because often, and actually is this all sharing okay? Because I can't hear you guys, so I don't know. It's all good? Okay. Okay, just yell out or something if it's not, yeah. Yeah, so I was collecting some pumice because, so where our marae is there, it's on the Waikato River. There's 8 dams, I think, hydro dams along the river, so it's very artificially managed these days, which is interesting when we think about Te Mano Te Wai and the new policies and things. But so we never really know quite what level our wai is going to be in the awa, in our section of it. But this day, so this was a couple of weeks ago, I was down there, the river was surprisingly low, super, super low. So they must have just flushed a whole lot of water through the system. And so there was all this pumice there to be collected. And because I've got this noho wānanga coming up in 2 weeks' time, I think, I thought, oh, I might gather a few little bits to include in our koha packs for all our attendees, so that they can take it home and scrub their feet with it, as I heard someone talking about. Yeah, but this bit is huge. I was like, wow, it's bigger than my head. So I thought that was pretty special. So it's a taonga to me. Anyway, sorry, getting into the presentation. So this presentation is about plans and policy, which John was saying, you know, all that boring stuff. And yes, yeah, policies and planning and stuff is very boring, our legislation. But at the moment, we're going through a reform of our resource management system. And well, the hope is that it will provide an opportunity for us as tangata whenua to intervene in the current system and start to reshape it to fit our needs better, because the ministers keep talking about how it's going to be fit for purpose. So our question has been, well, fit for whose purpose? Is it fit for our purpose? Because currently it's not. And those are some of the reasons why. So yeah, this is kind of what it looks like at the moment. And then these photos coming up are sort of, I would blame a lot, in big part, you know, the current disaster part of the events we've been having with the weather is very much due to this colonized system we have that just hasn't looked after our taonga appropriately. And so now we're suffering because our environment basically can't handle the way we've treated it. And so this was flooding the week before this big cyclone. So this was our family on the way back from my parents' place on the north shore of Auckland out to Muriwai, which is usually less than an hour's trip, but this time it took, I think it took us like 3 hours, and we had a car full of kids and a dog, and the kids were starting to panic and go, you know, Mom, I'm scared, which your heart is wrenched when you hear that and your stomach falls out and you just think, oh God. So that one there was the first sort of bridge we crossed that was already fully flooded. And that was after we tried to get onto the motorway and seen the motorways were gridlocked. So that system was obviously not going to handle. And I just thought, far out, imagine if you're stuck in a part of that gridlock that then gets flooded while you're stuck in it. And oh, just the sense of panic and what do you do in that situation? Blows my mind. Anyway, so we ended up crossing 7 or 8 parts of the road that were really, really flooded. This one here, we got to it and that's only about 15 minutes from our place. So we were like, oh, yep, let's try and get through. We'd already tried a few other ways, but the only cars that were getting through this way was that one coming through with a snorkel on it, a Hilux with a snorkel, and it's like bonnet's fully under the water there. My X-Trail doesn't have a snorkel, so we had to find another route, and we did, thankfully. But it was right up around our doors, like, and there's this sign that we passed saying, National will repeal and replace 3 waters, which is, yeah, okay. Just shows that we need to vote really smartly, and because the people who are in power, who do approve the legislations and plans and policies, you know, they need to be thinking differently, because we do need to be managing our water a lot better than we are at the moment. There's the railway. And so this is the next week when the cyclone came through. Those are all slips out at Muriwai, just up from our whare. We were only displaced for a couple of weeks, just mostly because, well, we were okay for about 6 days without power, but it was once we had no water that we had to shift out for a little while. We were able to come back, but a lot of residents still can't come back, and heaps of the slips haven't been cleared yet. So this one's, yeah, I walk past these every morning when I walk the dog, and it's just, these are scars across our landscape, and I just think this is because of poor planning, that it's damaging, you know, the community in the way it has. Then even the loss of lives that we had, 2 of our firemen passed away because they were trying to help the community to get out of this situation, and the slips came down on them. So if those houses were in that place where that land could slide on them, you know, their lives wouldn't have been lost. So that is what legislation and planning looks like. And my new motto has become say no to the status quo, because that's what we keep going back to. Often we go through these reforms, or we tweak some policy and plans somewhere, but it's still the status quo. It's just, you know, repackaged. And so that makes us think, well, who are we? Who are we as a country? And so this picture here is kind of showing, from a Te Ao Māori perspective, Papa Tuanuku Rangi Nui. That is who we are. That's where we come from. That is our Aotearoa is Papa Tuanuku. And then on the map of New Zealand, which is overlaid on it, there's a whole lot of spots on that map, and those dots are marae. So marae within 2 kilometres of waterways, like big rivers, or 20 kilometres of the coastline. So my point there is that we already have this amazing network of infrastructure of our marae and of well, communities that whakapapa to those marae. So there's all this amazing infrastructure, both physical and cultural, that we could be utilising to build our resilience. And there's no need to be what's that phrase? Redesigning the wheel or whatever. Because we could actually be tapping into that and acknowledging the value that our marae and our communities offer. And, you know, in a state of emergency, often it is the marae that the community ends up going to anyway, because it provides the best shelter, and they can handle big amounts of people and know how to cater for that. So yeah, I like to draw people's attention. I mean, we all know that probably. I'm not sure who's in the room, but I imagine most of us in the room know that. But there's a lot of planners and policymakers and that just don't think about it. And I think we need to be, really pushing some of these points. Because I argue that Aotearoa does need a philosophical change, and that's an argument that's been going on for a long, long time. The colonial system that we currently have and that we operate within hasn't been working. We can see that. And it comes back to our attitudes, our egotistical attitudes, and, you know, the neoliberalist capitalist way that we've started to think about our taonga or our resources. And that's the status quo. But some of you will be familiar with the Tīkiti Nui Constitutional Transformation Report that Margaret Mutu and, his name's, I can see his face, but his name's just totally gone. And no one can tell me who it is because I can't hear you guys. You know who I mean, eh? I wish I could see your faces. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a sec. But they, the iwi chairs asked them to lead a report. They went and had about 252 hui around the country. This was around in the 2010, 2012-ish, and then in 2016 this report came out. And so there were some ideas in there for how we could transform our constitution or get a good constitution in place for Aotearoa. One of the key points that I've taken from that is that Māori need to be influential across the whole system. So that includes the kāwanatanga sphere. So that's where the policies and plans and legislations are made, or And then the rangatiratanga sphere, where we can just make decisions for ourselves, forget about everyone else. And then in that relational sphere, that's where on the ground, a lot of the rubber hits the road, and that's where we're working together, and there should be equal space for te ao Māori and te ao Pākehā. So this I pulled together for a planners conference a couple of weeks ago, New Zealand Planning Institute. So I was trying to explain to them, trying to visually show, you know, how serious it is, what's happening at the moment with climate change and with these disasters, and that we are heading to this catastrophic end of the scale. So we really need to change the way we're doing things. And yeah, I've got one of these fire things just down the road because we're next to Woodhill Forest. So that, I was like, yes, that's a good way to show it, because we're currently getting pretty close to danger, serious danger. And then the idea that we could actually manage things better, and if we were to think about our resources in a way, you know, like how we think about them as taonga, well, maybe we'll start treating them with a bit more respect. We might start thinking about, well, how do we show reciprocity for what we're taking? And so, yeah, that's just a simple way of showing it. So I guess, as you can see, I get a bit fired up about some of this stuff, and I'm like, right, okay, we got to do something about this. And so this is just one of my favorite books, and I won't show you the passage I like the best because we're running out of time, but I guess it's, just a call to wake up and change the system. And so moving on to what I've been doing for this project within the Resilience Challenge, we decided to, well, we're looking at the planning system, whether it's fit for our purpose through these reforms. And of course, I can't say whether it's going to be fit for all, you know, the purpose of all Māori, all tangata whenua. So I thought, oh, how can I engage everyone on a smallish budget, tight timeframes? I mean, in terms of the way that we like to kōrero, and if we were to do across the whole Aotearoa, how can I get there? And, you know, through COVID, one of the good things, I guess, is that we have learned how to connect more online. And although I say that, but I'm not very good with technology, so I'm not that great at connecting online, but it still serves a purpose. And yeah, so we started doing these online wānanga, which have been amazing. It's been a really great space. We've had like 100, more than 100 to some of them, of Māori planners and practitioners. And we make it very explicit that these are safe spaces for us to gather and think, and it's for our purpose. So those three on the left are the ones that we did last year. And then the ones on the right, that's coming up on the 17th of May. We are now inviting the Ministry for the Environment to come and talk about their reforms. They're going to sit there and we are going to have our breakouts into workshop mode and give ourselves space to talk, and then come back and ask them questions because they'll have their senior officials there. And so if any of you want to come, that's an open invite. It's free. It's between school drop off and lunchtime, 9:30 till 12:30. So yeah, the more the merrier, and you don't have to be a planner or practitioner. It's anyone that's Māori or works with Māori or wants to awhi us, that's interested in the resource management system and how we can intervene and make it more fit for our purpose of being resilient communities. And so some of the things that have come out of those workshops, we've put together a lot of submissions to all of the reforms, and there's been a whole lot of them in the last year. So we've been submitting and putting in the collective voice, and then we've also been circulating this collation of different expressions of kaitiakitanga. So it's about, I guess, reviving some of the, our wāta and our, the ways that we want to embody kaitiakitanga. Because I got really hoha with the idea that all we can do is put a submission in and hope that the Crown reads it and does something about it. Like, to me, that just is, it's not enough. And so we thought, okay, well, what else can we do? So we did compose a haka. Or my tuakana, Dr. Wiki Waka Hoki, she actually composed it, and her moko put some actions to it. And we talked about taking it to Parliament and doing it down there and in front of the beehive. But we're yet to get there. So if anyone's keen on that idea, let me know and let's do it. But there's some cool stuff in there. And if anyone wants a copy of this as well, let me know and I'll send you one out. But yeah, the collective all agreed that no, it's not fit for our purpose. And this is my last slide, I think. But the simple thing is that basically we want power, decision-making power, to be devolved to whānau hapu level. And there are some opportunities in the reforms, thankfully, for that more localised decision-making. Probably not enough for what I would expect, but it's getting there. And so what the sort of easiest thing that I'm communicating to those Crown ones is that to do Tiriti-centric planning or practice or develop anything, if they want to empower and enable us, then that does require enabling and empowering rangatiratanga, mātauranga, and tikanga and kawa. Because at the moment, and some of their legislation's coming out with bits and pieces of te ao Māori in it. And the parts that they think they obviously quite like te mana o te wai. They like the idea of recognising te mana o te wai. but they have crafted the policy in a way that the government, the councils can decide what the mana of our wai looks like. It doesn't say that the communities themselves are going to, you know, inseparable from that. So it's just things like that make me quite cynical, I guess, about some of this planning and legislation writing, but that's why it's important that we keep analysing it, critiquing it and pushing back. But yeah, that's to say, yeah, those things, rangatiratanga, mātauranga, tikanga and kawa, obviously we define those for ourselves within our rohi, within our hapu. And so those are like placeholders to say, you need to be empowering and enabling these things, and then we can tell you what those look like. Yeah, so I think I'll end it there. Sorry again that this is online because it does feel very strange. But yeah, there you go.
I'm
surprised anyone's still there. I thought I was going to turn my thing off and come back to this room and see nobody sitting there.
Has anyone got any parts for Lara? We've got time or it's fine.
No, they just want a kai. It's okay.
Oh, kia ora, Lara. We're so lucky to have you advocating for Māori in all of those spaces and across all of those platforms and everything that you do. So we really appreciate all of your mahi and your expertise to knowing the inside and out of those systems and how to fight that fight and encouraging those rangatahi and bringing those with you too. So kia ora and thank you so much for joining online. I know you've got a lot going on with whānau and somebody here broken bones. So kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kei te mihi atu ki a koe, Lara, mō kōrero me ngā kāturanga and some of those PowerPoints, some of those comments in the PowerPoints, we want a copy of those to bring that type of discussion into our communities here. And there were some really key points that you raised on those PowerPoints. And I've just been talking to the Ōpōtiki College students in the next room. And these comments that you're making on your PowerPoints, yours too, John, you know, what we want to do is to develop new conversations with our colleges around these comments that you're making here, because the idea of creating that knowledge space in policy and planning and management is a big part of us. So thank you very much. And, you know, we're going to head off for lunch now.